Welcome to Tresor Expansions. I'm Chloe Lula, the host of this show and a Tresor Club resident. With these interviews, we want to shed light on the artists closely affiliated with Tresor, longtime legends who have released on the label across the decades, past and present regulars in the booth, and up-and-comers who are just getting their foot in the door of the club. Each conversation showcases the subject's musical influences and the songs that shaped them, as well as their connection to the sound and ethos of the Berlin institution. Today's episode is with Helena Hauff. The Hamburg-based DJ has become known for her searing all-vinyl sets, which blend electro, acid, techno, and all shades of underground left-field music. She also runs a label called Return to Disorder, where she occasionally releases her own music and EPs from her friends and favorite artists. In addition to being a regular in the Tresor booth, Hauff released a continuous mix for Tresor called Kern, which came out on vinyl in 2020. It's an amazing listen, and I recommend you check it out if you haven't yet. Hauff has been big on the scene for a few years now, and her story is interesting because it's not the typical ascent to fame narrative. She has no social media and spent a long time at the beginning of her career actively trying to kill the vibe on the dance floor, as she tells me in our interview. But she has a unique way of fitting sounds together and blending styles in a way that appeals to so many different kinds of stages and audiences, tending to privilege old school, hardware-based styles from the deep recesses of Discogs. Helena Hauff has always been one of my favorite artists, not only because of her mixes and how she holds herself behind the decks, but because of her irreverence for industry etiquette and her genuine love for all things weird and wonderful. We talked about her earliest memories of the Golden Pudel Club in Hamburg, where she was a resident, and even witnessed some literary readings in the middle of DJ sets. We also talked about the basement cellars she slept in when she went to party in the Netherlands, and how she discovered that she liked electro through a series of happy record store accidents. I've interviewed Helena a couple of times and have had the opportunity to share a booth with her as well. So it was really fun to connect and listen to some of the songs that have shaped her life. Thank you so much for listening. Here is Helena Hauff. In preparation for this interview, I asked you to choose a few songs that have been influential in your artistic trajectory. And I want to start with Andrean Sand Dunes by Drexciya.
Yes.
Which came out on Tresor in 1999. So for those unfamiliar with the Drexciya project, it's a Detroit duo comprised of James Stinson and Gerald Donald, who created a mysterious project that pulled together strands from Afrofuturism, political activism, and Platonic philosophy. And they formed an elaborate mythology around the Drexciyan people, which is an aquatic race that descended from the children of slaves thrown overboard. So each one of the 12 inches communicates one of these myths about the Drexciyan race. It creates this portal between Africa and contemporary America, the Atlantic Ocean. And the song that you chose is really a classic in that canon. So can you tell me about the song and why it stands out to you?
I mean, to be honest, I could have picked any one of them because I think they're all brilliant. I mean, that one's quite memorable, it's quite melodic and it's just such a lovely tune. The album is one of the best works. I mean, as I said, I think it's all really good. I would really struggle to just pick one, but it's just a very memorable tune, I think. And I've always really, really liked it. And the whole story behind it has always touched me very deeply. So has their music. They're a very powerful group and it's a very powerful message and it's a very powerful sound. And yeah, it's been massively influential for me.
So you've been a long time Tresor resident. How did your relationship with the club start?
I think the first time I played Tresor, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was during Atonal. And I think it wasn't me as a solo DJ act. I think it was together with James Dean Brown doing Hypnobeat.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a project. Well, he started this project with another friend of his in the early 80s, and they made this kind of proto-techno sound. And in 2013, I released my first record. He got in touch with me because he was like, oh, one of the tracks sounds like exactly what we did 30 years ago.
Wow.
And we found out, yeah, it's because I used exactly the same machine. I used an 808 and I didn't use much else. And it was like his approach. He plays live with like 2 808s. And then we came together and I brought my 808 to the table, quite literally.
3 808s.
And then we had 3 808s and just played live. We did it for a couple of years, and I think that was actually the first time I played Tresor. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but it's the first one I remember.
So I want to go back a little bit to your upbringing and your musical roots. What was your exposure to music like growing up, and like what were you listening to?
As a young teenager, I started getting into a bit of like guitar music, like indie rock guitar stuff. It was a bit of a random kind of finding music. I didn't have anybody show me what there is. Like I didn't have a person to go like, oh, here, why don't you go check this out? Or, you know, like friends or family that were into music pointing me into directions. I kind of did it myself, and I did it by going to the library and more or less randomly picking CDs out of the shelf, not knowing what anything was. Yes, at the library. And then I would take the CDs home with me and record the songs that I liked onto cassette tape. It was a wild mix of absolutely everything, because I had no idea. I would pick like classical music and then like a metal album and then I don't know, and then it would all come together and be this weird thing. And then I was probably also influenced by like MTV and the German Viva at the time. Listened to some hip hop and R&B, and on Viva they would also play like the Love Parade or something like that, and they would have Westbam on and stuff, kind of like that as well. So it was a weird mix of things. And then as I left school and moved away from home, I started finding friends that were also into music, and then they would kind of introduce me to different things, like Ortega, for example.
Okay, I was going to ask if your family or your parents were into music, but that just wasn't something that was part of your home environment.
Not really. My mum would listen to the radio, and my dad wasn't around. So, yeah. Yeah.
It's the same for me, and I always feel quite envious of friends who had like parents who were in bands and stuff like that.
Right, yes. I don't know if it's a good thing though, because how can you like rebel against your parents if they're like cool? I'm glad mine weren't.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah, but then you meet people along the way and it becomes your family and your community, and you discover music maybe later in your life.
When did you first become aware of electronic music, and can you remember maybe one particular experience or song that led you to the music that you like now?
I remember being at my grandparents' house. The radio was on and I was tinkering with the radio, and then I found this channel and they played techno. And I was like, this is so dangerous. I love it. You know, it's kind of, I think the first time I heard electronic music in whatever form it was, I'm not entirely sure what it was, but I instantly fell in love with it. And I remember, as I said, like watching the television and stuff, and they would have some electronic stuff on, and the kind of pop hits, obviously, of techno and electro, but like the melodies, the sounds, I was drawn into it immediately. I just loved it. I knew it was my thing. I was never really into like proper pop music. I did never, even as a child, I didn't like children's music either, like the songs and stuff. If I hated it. And pretty much everything pop, everything that's got like a too memorable melody. It's not necessarily memorable melody, but like anything that's got too nice of a melody, I just fucking hate it. I couldn't deal with it. Even when I was 4 years old, I hated it. Always hated it. Yeah.
Well, I want to move on to the second track you selected. Since you mentioned Outecker, you selected Bike by Outecker. And it's from their debut album On Warp, which came out in 1993. And I had not heard this one before, even though I'm a big Outecker fan. And it seems like a bit of a wild card from their discography, since I personally think of a record like Amber being the one that really defined their career. So can you tell me a little bit about why you chose this song in particular?
Well, Amber is also one of my favorite albums. I love it. The first album was the first one I heard. It was actually a friend introducing me to it, and he had it on CD or record or something, and he played it to me, and I loved it. And again, I could have probably picked any of the tracks because I think they're all really good. But that one really touches me and makes me quite emotional. It's just one of those songs that I can hear again and again and again, just play on repeat.
Eventually, as you moved out of home, you started creating this community of like-minded friends around music. You became a resident at Golden Pudel. Is there a song that comes to mind that defined your time at this club?
Wow. Jamie Principle. Is it called Your Love? Something Love. I think it's called Your Love.
Okay.
Your love feels like forever or something. RVDS, the DJ, he would play this a lot. And every time he would play this, I would freak out. At one point I asked him what it was. Probably first time I heard it, ask what it was. I bought the record, I played it loads myself after that. It's just, I don't know, somehow it reminds me of Pudel. I'm not sure if he was the only one playing it. Maybe there were also a few other DJs playing it. Maybe it became a bit of a hit for us.
I don't know if I know the song. Maybe if I heard it, I would recognize it.
Yeah, it's quite a kind of like cheesy Chicago dance hit.
Okay.
from the 80s, classic Chicago house, I would call it.
Okay.
Or like early Chicago house, maybe. It's got somebody singing. I've got the melody in my head now, and it's good that you asked me this because I had totally forgotten about it.
Really resonated with Pudel's DIY ethos and the anti-capitalist ideals that surrounded it. Can you elaborate on the ethos and how it fed into your music, both in terms of your approach to career, but also the music that you make and that you play?
Well, I guess because I learned how to DJ, or I became a DJ at the club, I created my style, the way I DJ at that place, and so it must have had a massive influence on me. I don't think I would DJ the way I do if I didn't become a DJ there, because I could do whatever I wanted and it was appreciated to be outrageously different, which I'm not anymore, I guess. But like, I remember at the start when I started DJing, I really tried so hard to sound different. I just wanted to challenge myself and challenge the audience or something and create something unique that you wouldn't maybe find in the normal club, like your normal techno club or something. I was like, no, this is the sound of the Pudel, you know, that's more daring maybe. I don't know. And it was possible to do that there. And that's definitely influenced me. And I guess I still, to this day, take more risks than most DJs, considering the lineups I'm on or how big the stages sometimes are. Not in the same way that I did back then, when I just almost tried too hard to be different.
Like what's something that you would play to be really different?
I think I always had to if it was going too well and people were vibing too much, I would have to play something to make them go like, what the fuck is going on? Now I'm probably a bit more like, chill, it's good. They're having a good time. Yeah. Let's not kill the vibe. It's all right. And also, obviously, sometimes if you're trying to do something different that can add to the whole thing and people going insanely crazy and loving it, you have to try. And if you didn't try, then you would never know if something would work or not. And I think that was really important for me. So I just tried, and I was like, oh, that's actually cool. If I play, I don't know, some weird early electronic noise track into this techno track, people are actually loving it. If I play this into the disco track, people are hating it. It's like you find out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, like a scientist. We're not moving forward much in the timeline because this one is from 1994 and it's called Checking the Wine Cellar by Beverly Hills 808-303.
So did I literally pick all the songs from like just 93 and 94?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh no, there's one from 2000.
Oh, thank God.
I think that might be the most contemporary one on here.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So one could kind of guess how it sounds from the track title. The album is Acid Planet 7, and it was a white label released on an imprint called Acid Planet, which I actually wasn't familiar with until I looked the song up, and it's a sub-label of Bunker Records from The Hague. So
of course it is.
Yes. So can you tell me more about the track? And I know you have a long relationship with Guy Tavares and IF, so maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the thing is, I discovered Bunker Records and their music and Unit Mobius when I first started making music. And I was like, okay, you know what? That's what I want to sound like. And I think to this date, I have not managed to actually evolve from that. I still just sound like that. It's just, I always wanted to sound like early Bunker Records, and I got there and that's it. I can stop now. You know, it's that kind of immediate raw energy, the one synthesizer, one drum machine kind of approach. I mean, there is the one that's called Ein Drum Machine. I don't know, it's in Dutch. one drum machine and one synthesizer is the track. That's the title of the track. Anyway, that I was like, okay, I want to do exactly that. I want to just use a limited amount of machines, analog gear, hardware only, rough, one take, live jam, record onto cassette tape, acid, techno. That's what I wanted to do. And that's what I wanted to sound like. And I was like, IF, Unit Mobius, that kind of vibe. They are my inspiration. I'm going to follow that. That's going to be my sound. I don't know why. I didn't sit down thinking, oh yeah, I want to sound like Autechre.
But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's just, yeah, you're feeling for something, like your intuition.
And I know it's strange though, because I'm a huge Autechre fan. Not once in my life did I try to make sounds like that. But I always just wanted to make like 808, 303 acid, and I've done, and I've never done anything else really. I don't think I'm ever going to do anything else. and obviously the Beverly Hills 808, 303, that name, it's like it's hilarious. It's classic, such a classic.
So when you were still DJing at Pudel, you started, I think, going over to play some of those parties in The Hague, right? And then they would come to Hamburg.
I invited Guy Tavares to play at my party a few times, and he would stay at my house and take Karen on my kitchen table and play the most bizarre music. And then I don't think it was the first time he played, I think it was the second one. He just stopped in the middle of his set to tell a story, and then he just stood there telling a story for like an hour until everybody was gone.
That's so funny.
I think he had a microphone, but I don't think anybody understood what the hell he was saying. But like, he was really into writing, and he does like really poetic stuff, and it's great. And I mean, he's got such a knowledge about not only music, but also history and literature. He's actually a really good writer. He would like, in the middle of the Pudel party at 3 o'clock in the morning, just like stop the music, get a microphone, and just read one of his stories.
That's actually really cool.
It's incredibly cool. And he was like, well, this is the place where I can do this without getting kicked out. I mean, imagine doing that somewhere else. Imagine that at Berghain. That was the cool thing about Pudel. You could literally just do that. I mean, the people didn't like it, don't get me wrong. It's just the owners wouldn't do anything about it, you know. They're like, oh yeah, that's happening, that's the performance. Of course, yeah, we're all in. Excellent, go on. But yeah, so that's the story with Guy. And I never played at their parties in The Hague, but I would come as a little fangirl and just visit and sleep in Guy's cellar.
Okay.
Next to the Nazi memorabilia and the drum kit.
Are there any other labels that you've followed as religiously throughout your career?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think that one was one of those proper like fun things. I just became a little bit obsessed with it, and it meant the world to me. I mean, I was also massively into anything Detroit related. I really, really, really needed to find out what the roots of this were and wanted to know where this music came from right from the get-go. And I done an immense research into Detroit music. And this is like when I just started DJing. I think even before I even had like turntables, I would just go online and, I don't know, find out who all those people are that made this music. Drexciya, Jeff Mills, Theo Parrish, Moody Man, then all the Chicago legends, you know. I would just want to know, and then I would listen to the whole back catalogue and be completely obsessed with that. So, yeah.
Well, you also chose a song called Dusty Cabinets by Theo Parrish.
Yeah.
And this came out on Sound Signature in 2000. And I actually was surprised that you chose a Theo Parrish song, but then as soon as I listened to it, I heard you right away. It's this very plodding, analog, mechanical song, and it's almost like you can hear where he cut up and spliced the tape together. So what is the story behind this song for you?
Well, it's a bit like the Beverly Hills song. If I didn't want it to sound like Unit Mobius, I think I would want to sound like Theo Parrish. I just like the kind of rough, raw, organic sound. It just seemed so new to me because I think I'd just never heard anything like it before I really dug deep and really got into electronic music. Everything you would hear was always very clean and sterile. And then to find this, so it's like, wow, this music can be like this. It doesn't have to be polished. It can be very immediate and very there, and like you can touch it and feel it. That inspired me, and it kind of made me fall in love with a lot of the kind of Detroit house, because I also played a lot of house and deep house, but the type that I was interested in was the slightly rawer, rougher version of house.
a lot of the music you selected isn't necessarily geared for the dance floor. I was going to ask if you would ever drop these songs in a set, but I think that you probably would.
Oh, it's interesting that you notice that, because I haven't. Yeah, I would, but it's funny that I didn't really pick the ones that I would play all the time. Maybe because we're talking about this period in my life where I would just be I wasn't that much into club vibes, to be honest. I don't think the club was what it is to me now, or what it is to most people when you just go and have a good time and dance and you just want to dance and dance. I think it was more a place where I could explore sounds, where I guess it comes back to like it being the Pudel and somebody grabbing a microphone at 3 a.m. in the morning and just telling you a story. It wasn't that much about just dancing. I mean, it was, but it was also just about a lot of other things. And for me, it was maybe like being in a place where all the freaks go, and out of a sudden feeling like, oh, you have some friends and people think differently here, and people are just a bit mad, and I love that, and I'm actually not that unusual. And yeah, of course we can play strange sounds, and I don't know, maybe all of that comes together, and then yeah, I don't know, that was the kind of dance music. I mean, I would play Theo Parrish for peak time.
Yeah,
that was the peak time. Dusty Cabinets is the peak time track.
Like, production is really accessible now, which I think is great in a lot of ways, because anyone has access to the tools or like sample packs or whatever. But then at the same time, I do feel like it's like sterilized the quality of music. And also like, yeah, you don't get the same kind of quality from songs that we hear in like the songs that you chose to talk about that are just, yeah, so raw.
Yes, I also think this is just a wild guess, but maybe it's also because a lot of people would listen to music on their smartphones, not on very good speakers, not necessarily loud in a club like you would listen to the Theo Parrish and the Unit Mobius. You would be in the club listening to that, whereas a lot of people are on social media and then scrolling through. Those kind of tracks are not going to sound good on a smartphone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not. It's going to sound rubbish. So the things that you're going to be drawn to are a lot cleaner productions, because they're going to cut through a lot better. You can't even blame people for that. It's not something, I wouldn't want to listen to Dusty Cabinets on my smartphone. I don't have a smartphone, actually. I don't want to listen to that on my, I don't know, computer. You know, it's kind of, it doesn't sound right. The other way around is really interesting as well. I wouldn't necessarily want to listen to Dusty Cabinets or that IF track on super expensive high-end speakers either, because that stuff wasn't made on super high-end expensive speakers. So it was never meant to be played on those.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what IF did and what kind of speakers he had, but I'm sure he didn't sit there in front of like the most expensive kit and go like, I want a little bit more like high-end frequency here on that 303. I think he was probably off his tits going like bonkers, going like, fucking love this. That's it. Recorded it onto cassette tape. Was like, that should do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to sound great on exactly what he made it on. And I think, yeah, with the modern music, the fact that a lot of people listen to it the way they do is going to influence what it sounds like.
When you're on the road, what do you listen to music on? Like, do you have an iPod?
I don't listen to music.
Really?
No.
Okay.
This sounds weird maybe, but like, I don't listen to a lot of music at all. Very, very rare that I listen to music.
I want to talk a little bit about some of what you do listen to outside of electronica. Because many years ago, I saw you DJ a party at a Coud in Berlin, and you played a psych rock set, which was really sick. And you also have this show on NTS that's all psych and garage rock, and I still listen to it a lot. So is this a sound that you still gravitate towards? And if so, who do you like to listen to?
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I love Loop, love Spaceman 3.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Stooges. I have a little bit of a problem with it at the moment because I suffer quite badly from insomnia. The problem is that I can't really listen to music that is too melodic, where the melody would stuck in my head, because it would like haunt me all night. So I kind of stopped listening to all of that and just started listening to the most abstract stuff. So it would be like either some kind of jazz or some kind of Ortega like electronica, some IDM or something. That's all I would listen to now. I don't listen to anything else now.
Okay.
Because that just really helps me to wind down. Yeah.
In an interview that you gave for The Guardian, you mentioned that you like jazz and you listen to it a lot while you cook. So what is some of your favorite jazz?
Probably Alice Coltrane.
I love Alice Coltrane. That. All spiritual jazz. Yeah.
That's my kind of thing. Kind of free, but not too free. Like there is some structure still, but like it's great. I love it.
What kind of dish would you cook while listening to Alice Coltrane or John Coltrane?
Pasta. I mean, I love pasta. Anything kind of Italian actually is totally my thing. But today I made leeks with white beans and tahini sauce and dates, coriander on top. It was very, very lovely.
So let's play your next song, Uranium by Radioactive Man, which is the most contemporary song that you chose, which came out in 2001. And I think you played this on a BBC Radio 1 mix at one point, and you recalled that you randomly picked it up sometime in the mid-2000s. So can you paint us a picture of young Helena Hauff finding this gem and what impact it had on you?
It was the first time going to a record shop ever. And I walked in, it was in Hamburg. I walked into this shop and I didn't have a record player, so I would go straight to the CD section. And I saw this thing looking at me, staring at me, screaming, "Pick me up." And I did. And that was Radioactive Man. I don't think I listened to anything else in that record shop. I think that was it. I just picked it up, I bought it, that's it.
And then
fell in
left.
love with electro. Left, fell in love with electro, became a famous DJ. I have played this track or the whole album up and down, like, oh my God, my flatmates must have been so mad. I had a DJ as a flatmate at the time. And he was like, you always played like all that guitar crap. And now you're playing this music. That's almost what I'm into.
So it was really like a shift for you and how...
No, as I said, I was already into electronic stuff. Like when I was a young child, I would hear things on the radio or something, and I always liked it. I just never owned a record or owned a CD or anything, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the name for it. I certainly didn't know it was called electro. Like I had no idea what that genre was. I just loved it. I played it a million times. I remember asking other people, oh yeah, this record is like Radioactive Man. They were like, who? It's like, don't you know? It's like, you must know this. I mean, come on, this is like the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you've never heard of this name before. I couldn't believe it, It was just like, this is groundbreaking. This is amazing. I can't imagine anything more beautiful. Like, how come people have not heard this name? This guy must be like really famous. I mean, if you make music like that, you must be huge. I had no idea. It was cute. But yeah, I still didn't start DJing. I started DJing maybe 2-3 years later. And then I got introduced to Drexciya, and people were like, oh yeah, that's electro. I started digging music and buying music on Clone as well. I was like, oh, it always says electro when I like it. That's what it's called, right? And then that was it.
Do you still play it in your sets?
I do.
Well, what is one thing that you're looking forward to right now, music related or otherwise?
I'm looking forward to the summer.
Yeah.
Both music related and otherwise.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the weather being a little bit warmer and more outdoor activities, including more outdoor festivals. I really enjoy those, being in nature and playing music that I love to people in like nice sceneries. You know, I think it's really beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that. Summer festivals, summer vibe.
Yeah. Well, you're about to go on a big tour starting tomorrow. Is that right? Or Thursday?
I'm going in a couple of weeks. Like, I'm really busy next week. And then after that, I'm going for 3 weeks. I'm going to South America.
Got it. Well, we'll be summer there already. So
yeah. So yeah. And South America, Mexico, New York, Chicago. Yeah.
Well, now I think we've covered all the songs.
Excellent.
Thank you for doing this interview.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, great to chat again. Thank you for listening to this episode of Tresor Expansions. We'll be back again in 2 months. See you next time.